She Lauren Sita Willie and she Ado Tko Hanin Nishle, Tkodich Eatney Bashichin, Nana Tkachitni A Dashiche, my Dashkijni A Dashanelle, Ado Dlashle Guidance, and Yasina Shadoshiaho, Ado Oltkadona Nishbinacha Aunt Helena Shagando Kahashte.
Yade she todich eatnin shle. Mayan bashichin. Aro totsone e dashiche. Aron the catchway de ne e dashanelle. Aro Stephanie Sosi e dashijine. Wishdodi to do jektes ade e nasha.
Yad eshe e Crystal Little Banyan ishya. Kintle cheatni nishle ma idashgijni bashichin. Bin petone dashiche auto but any dashanelle.
I was a deputy tribal director overseeing 12 chapter areas in our region. And we had 5 field organizers that I worked with. And we did political outreach. We did a lot of virtual education. We also distribute PPE supplies to community members.
I got involved because I noticed that this year was not only was it a hard year, but we needed a change. I thought that, my little help could at least make some changes in that and to get our community, our Indigenous people voices heard.
I've always had a political background, and it all started with Mshima Sane introducing me to chapter house meetings and going to planning meetings, veterans organization meetings, because she was very active. It really resonated with me when I participated in this organization. It's my colleague and now friend, Lauren Sita Willie, reached out to me and asked me, hey, Steph, are you doing anything? Are you busy? There's this project going on and we want you a part of it if you're willing to. So for me, my first initiative was your sister's asking you for help, that sense of, and responsibility to one another. She asked for my help, so I helped. And our task was for political outreach in our communities, which entails registering voters, getting people that are not registered to participate in voting, and to get people to care about voting.
I had never voted before, and so one of my main things was that I felt like just voter basics was a big thing, and the reason why I wasn't voting and the reason why a lot of people don't vote is, just feeling intimidated about asking questions. People make you feel like you should already know these things. And so we just kept it very basic, very simple.
A lot of people that were like, why should I care? Well, why do I need a vote? I don't like either candidate, so why should I? So we really had to break it down for people and make it personal for each and every individual and how voting or not voting impacts them. We would tell them too, even you not voting, that's a choice that you're making, that's an option, and that does count too. Even though you're not participating, you are participating. So we really had to reiterate a lot of our Dene culture, our Dene history, and a lot of people, they really liked it. That seemed to be the one thing that a lot of them had a tough time with, was how do I tell somebody about my concerns for voting? If I ask this question, will I seem like this? Or if I ask this question, will they think I'm leaning this more towards this party or more towards that party?
The values that I took from Dene College that helped transition into the work that I was doing was utilizing the Dene paradigm. I had used it so much at the college that it just became part of my everyday doing things.
One of the main teachings is this was my way to contribute to the change and to the information that we can distribute to our communities. So that was one of the reasons why I joined this organization, was to make a change, but also to be involved and also to help our people, because that's literally what is that we feel for our people and we want them to be informed. We want to be there on the grounds with them to let them know that, a lot of these issues are important. And so I thought that, giving that encouragement and motivation and putting my time and effort into this organization to accomplish our goals, I thought that that was my way of contributing to change.
So when I came here, I was very excited that Dene College had a really high emphasis on Dene ways of knowing and the Dene way of life. I was brought up to know that I had a position within my people, within my family, to use my voice. And using those teachings made it a lot easier to communicate with people.
We utilize what we learned here and also what we learned growing up, our values. We instill that into this team. That is what made this whole experience worth it.
As well as Onward Ego, that was emphasized when I was a child growing up. I was raised knowing that whatever was going to be, it was up to me. Sometimes I felt like I wanted more guidance, but just taking that initiative and going out there and making it happen is part of Onward Ego.
I got to utilize GAH, and we got to bond with our community in that way, and we got to recognize how we are all related, and through that, that's how we create a connection. That's how we create a rapport with our communities, and that helps us accomplish our goals. One of the main challenges with working with this organization, but also to accomplish our goals, was the current pandemic that's happening this year. That really set us back when we were trying to go out into the community, because we cannot be face-to-face with our community. We have to follow the CDC guidelines, 6 feet social distancing, mask up. So that made it very difficult to try to reach out to our communities, to try to speak with them one-on-one.
It was very challenging when you just couldn't go up to community members and just talk. That, I believe, was one of the main challenges that we had as a team. And it was just very challenging that we couldn't just all come together the way we were used to working.
But we also learned that we could utilize other resources such as social media, parades. And so we utilize a lot of the other resources that we have, and including radio. So we were able to still reach out to our communities.
So when we went into these communities, we decided that, okay, we're going to have to be resourceful. We have to be creative in terms of doing political outreach. So we felt like, to limit our contact with the community members, we wanted to do car parades. So we went out, we used megaphones, talking about the importance of voting and just educating people. And it was fun. We had elderlies come out of their homes. We had children running to the window and playing in the lawn, and people dancing in the streets. I mean, it was very emotional, and they wanted to show their support. And this was a way for them to do it when we were going out into the communities. Some of the challenges we faced is just covering Navajo Nation. We didn't have any cell services in a lot of areas. We didn't have internet access in a lot of areas. Some parts of Navajo, there was just no way of getting fuel, so we had to fuel at a certain place to cover a large area. If you're familiar with Navajo, there's a lot of dirt road. We had some of the organizers who had vehicle problems.
Some of the challenges I personally faced was not getting to all the areas that we were covering, because Region 3 was a pretty big chunk of our central Arizona. Lukajagay to Fort Defiance, all the way out to Hard Rock, Chilchimbito, Salina Springs, all the way to Hard Rocks, into Forest Lake, Black Mesa area, to about maybe Low Mountain area. These communities are like all anywhere from 50 to 60 miles away from one another. So everywhere it took about an hour to get to.
We had a couple incidents we were told that we would be arrested if we continued registering people to vote. And that was just very disheartening. And I know a lot of the community members were being chased away, and it was frustrating because, they had every right to vote, and a lot of times they didn't have anyone to assist them, and that's what we were there to do. But, we continued through because we knew it was important.
So one of the other challenges that our team faced was the realization that a lot of our own community members and our indigenous population, they were not informed of the current issues. Being a part of this organization, it also helped me become informed so that I know what to tell our community members. This is the information that is true.
I found it challenging at times and a little bit frustrating, especially when we went out to these communities. And for instances, during our parades, we had some individuals, using profanity. How can we support candidates who weren't here to help us? But it was just that, they didn't have a lot of factual information. As a Diné teaching, though, we try to not be easily offended. We try to remain professional and just continue to do the work that we were doing because we believed in it.
It made you question, and realize exactly where and what the concept of a government is and where it comes from. And there was also demonstrators that were from info shops, indigenous peoples that don't believe in the government, indigenous peoples that would like to see no government at all. This is a Native government. This is a Native form of being. This is a Native American First Nations way of living with one another, nation to nation and government to government relationships. There was a lot of misinformation and misconceptions about what the government is and how it functions, and just exactly how much of a Native American influence government actually really is. And here we were, a part of this organization, trying to stand for and promote some of our Diné values and ways of life, which are, strongly tied together with nation to nation relationships, which comes back from before 1868 and our times with other tribes around here in the Southwest.
From this experience, I learned that there is a lot of work to do on Navajo. Knowing the needs of these communities, I felt like I had an obligation to do more. I participated in this because it's important. Like I said, it's my first time voting, and so there's just a lot of things that I did not realize affected me, and whether we know it or not, it affects all of us. It impacts all of us on a daily basis.
There is a need for voter education here on the Navajo Nation. It's more than just drawing a line in the sand and picking a side. You have to know what those sides represent and how it affiliates to you and your community and your own value systems as a family and as a Diné person.
My most memorable experience would be the transition that happened within myself during this campaign. I started this as a job, and somewhere, there was a transition that happened. It just felt like a light within me. The more I learned, the more I cared about, and it became very personal to me. And so that was the most memorable for me, is that I just really cared about what I was doing. And so I participated because it's my responsibility as a U.S. citizen to my community, to my Diné relatives, to my family, to the future of my children.
My most memorable moment of this whole experience was to see the jump in registered voters, and also to see firsthand at the local chapters of how many people are rising up and taking the initiative to actually go out and vote.
For me, what I learned from this experience was that you can go home again. And as a Diné, it should be vital that you go home as often as you can, because at home, you have work there at home, you have obligations, you have that responsibility to your people, to your community.
And as young people, it is our responsibility to inform our elders, our parents, and You know, we're the generation that's most informed. We get world news at our fingertips. And what are we doing with that information? We need to turn around. We need to educate our family and our genetic relatives on some of these important issues that affect all of us. Knowing what I know now about my participation in the political process and in voting, you know, I try to exemplify some of these things for my children, and I hope that one day they advocate for their community, and that they participate and know the importance of their role and their responsibility to one another within our community.
The most memorable moment in this experience for me was earning people's trust in the community. Having that recognition that your people can trust you with knowing the information that you're giving to them is true and factual and is most relevant to them and their community was probably the most memorable part of it for me.
I am now more informed than ever. I'm more involved with our community. I'm more involved in the different political perspectives from our community members. So that really helped a lot.
Understanding and learning how to work with one another was really amazing, you know, and it really gave me a new sense of, I guess, renewed hopefulness in my fellow students to work with everybody in our own communities and see how we fit in each and every one of our communities and understand each other's functions in those communities was really vital in helping to push this initiative forward.
We have things that, you know, we want to change and be part of, and knowing that, you know, I know our paths are going to cross again, and we're going to, you know, working together, I know we're going to continue that.